The morning alarm echoed through the corridors of the Galactic Concordance Academy at precisely 0600 hours. Corporal Dae-ho Kim stood in the observation deck, watching the gas giant Viridian Prime rotate slowly beneath the orbital station. He had been at the academy for 3 months now, teaching survival tactics to cadets from 17 different alien species. Most of them thought his methods were strange. The formation grounds filled quickly. Cadets assembled in their squad formations, standing at attention in neat rows. Dae-ho counted heads out of habit, even though the electronic roster did that automatically. Something felt off. Instructor Velthra, a towering reptilian with scales that shimmered like copper, approached him. Her vertical pupils narrowed as she looked at her data tablet. "We have a problem, Corporal Kim. 3 cadets are missing from morning formation." Dae-ho raised an eyebrow. "Which ones?" "The Mara Cubs. Kira, Pounce, and Whisker. Squad leader Hiratak reports they were in their bunks at lights out last night." Velthra's tail swished with irritation. "This is unacceptable. The Mara are usually the most disciplined species we train. The Mara were a feline-like species, covered in soft fur and equipped with sharp senses. The 3 missing cadets were young, barely old enough for basic training. Dae-ho had noticed them watching him during his classes, their large eyes tracking his every movement with intense curiosity. "I'll check my quarters," Dae-ho said suddenly. Velthra's head tilted. "Why would you check your quarters?" "Just a feeling." When Dae-ho reached his room, he immediately noticed the storage locker. The electronic lock showed it had been accessed at 300 hours. He hadn't been awake at 0300 hours. He opened it slowly. Half his gear was missing. Velthra arrived moments later with Security Chief Thundar, an insectoid whose compound eyes could process multiple data streams simultaneously. "Explain," the security chief clicked. "Someone accessed my locker during sleep cycle. Several items are missing." Dae-ho began listing them. "Tactical knife, paracord, duct tape, multi-tool compass, water purification tablets, fire starter, emergency blanket, and my harmonica." "Your what?" Velthra asked. "Musical instrument. Small metal, makes sound when you blow into it." Thundar's antennae twitched. "Security footage will show us everything. Follow me." In the security office, they watched the recorded footage. At exactly 0247 hours, 3 small shapes crept through the corridor. The Mara Cubs moved with natural grace, their paws silent on the metal floor. Kira, the smallest, worked on Dae-ho's door lock with something that looked like a modified data pad. The door opened in 43 seconds. "Impressive," Thundar clicked. "That lock requires level 3 security clearance bypass." They watched the Cubs enter the room. Pounce kept watch while Whisker and Kira carefully opened the storage locker. They didn't just grab things randomly. They examined each item, turning it over in their paws before gently placing it in a carrying bag. The whole operation took 18 minutes. Then they vanished into the corridor. "Track them," Velthra ordered. Thundar's claws danced over the control panel. "Corridor 7 maintenance shaft. Lower deck access." They went down to the abandoned cargo bays. The abandoned section of the station was scheduled for renovation. Most cadets avoided it because it was cold and the lights barely worked. Dae-ho, Velthra, and Thundar descended through 3 levels, following the security chief's tracking data. Cargo Bay 7 was dark except for a single maintenance light the Cubs had somehow activated. But what stopped all 3 adults in their tracks was what the light revealed. The Cubs had arranged Dae-ho's gear across the floor in an elaborate display. Each item was positioned carefully, almost reverently. The tactical knife lay on a clean cloth, blade open, reflecting the light. The paracord was uncoiled in a perfect spiral. The multi-tool had all its attachments extended and labeled with small handwritten notes in Mara script. The compass sat in the center like a shrine, its needle pointing steadily north. Around everything, the Cubs had drawn diagrams on the floor using what looked like colored chalk. Kira sat cross-legged in front of the compass, sketching it in a notebook. Pounce was testing the paracord's strength, pulling it between his paws with intense concentration. Whisker had the harmonica and was examining it with a magnifying lens, trying to understand how it worked. They were so focused they didn't notice the adults until Velthra spoke. "Cadets, attention!" All 3 Cubs jumped. The harmonica clattered to the floor. They scrambled to their feet and stood at attention, their ears flat against their heads in submission. "You missed formation," Velthra said, her voice cold. "You accessed restricted quarters without authorization. You stole personal property. Do you understand the severity of these violations? Kira's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, instructor. Then explain yourselves. The three cubs looked at each other. Finally, Whisker spoke. We wanted to understand. Understand what? Why Corporal Kim carries so many things. Daeho stepped forward. What do you mean? Pounce's ears perked up slightly. You're human, Corporal. Humans are famous for being prepared. But we didn't understand why. Other species carry data pads and energy weapons. You carry things, simple things, old things. We wanted to know why each thing matters. Kira pointed to her notebook. I've been watching you, Corporal. In 1 week I saw you use that knife 7 different ways. You cut rope. You opened a sealed container. You stripped wire. You used the flat side as a screwdriver. You marked measurements on a board. You used it to pry open a stuck door. You even used it to eat your lunch. 7 uses, 1 tool, Whisker added. Our species would have 7 different tools. More efficient, more specialized, but you choose redundancy. Daeho picked up the compass. And this? Electronic navigation is better, Pounce said. Faster, more accurate, connected to satellites and networks. But that compass never needs power. Never needs updates. Never breaks if you drop it. You trust it. We wanted to understand human thinking, Kira said softly. Why you prepare for problems that might never happen. Why you carry backups for your backups. Why you value things that seem primitive. Velthra's expression was unreadable. This does not excuse unauthorized entry and theft. No, ma'am, all 3 cubs said together. Thundar clicked his mandibles. Standard protocol requires detention and formal reprimand. But Daeho was looking at the floor drawings. The cubs hadn't just stolen his gear. They had studied it. Analyzed it. The diagrams showed force applications for the paracord, geometric calculations for the knife blade angles, material composition theories for the multi-tool. These weren't the scribbles of thieves. This was research. May I handle this, Instructor Velthra? Daeho asked. The reptilian instructor studied him for a long moment. This is your property. Your decision carries weight, but they still violated Academy rules. I understand. Daeho knelt down to eye level with the cubs. You 3 are in serious trouble. Breaking into an instructor's quarters is expulsion-level offense. Do you understand that? Yes, Corporal, they whispered. But you're also the first cadets who tried to understand instead of just judging. That means something. He stood up. Here's what's going to happen. You'll return to your squad. You'll accept whatever administrative punishment Instructor Velthra assigns. And tomorrow you'll report to my classroom at 1400 hours. Kira's ears lifted slightly. Classroom, Corporal. If you want to understand human gear, I'll teach you properly. But you have to earn it. Understood? Yes, Corporal. As they filed out carrying Daeho's gear carefully, Velthra turned to him. You're rewarding rule-breaking with private lessons? I'm rewarding curiosity with education. There's a difference. Humans, Velthra muttered, always complicating simple discipline. But Daeho noticed something. As the reptilian instructor watched the cubs walk away, her scaled lips curved ever so slightly upward. Maybe, just maybe, she was curious too. The security office felt colder than usual. Kira, Pounce, and Whisker sat in chairs designed for larger species, their paws dangling above the floor. Across from them sat Instructor Velthra, Security Chief Thundar, and a human woman the cubs hadn't met before. I am Lieutenant Baum Park, the woman said gently. I'm a psychologist and cultural liaison. I'm here to make sure everyone understands everyone else. Does that make sense? The 3 cubs nodded, their tails tucked close. Velthra placed her tablet on the table with a sharp click. Let me be clear. Unauthorized entry into instructor quarters is a serious offense. In military service, such actions could be considered espionage. Theft of personal property compounds the violation. The standard punishment is immediate expulsion from the academy. Whisker's ears drooped. Pounce's claws extended slightly in stress. Kira's eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. However, Velthra continued, Corporal Kim has declined to press charges for theft. This changes the situation somewhat. Why? Pounce blurted out. Why would he do that? Baum leaned forward. That's a good question. Why do you think he made that choice? The cubs exchanged glances. Kira spoke first. Because he's human? Elaborate. Humans think differently. They don't see problems, they see puzzles. They don't see threats, they see opportunities to adapt. Kira's voice grew stronger. We broke rules, but we also showed initiative. Human military history values initiative even when it causes trouble. Thundar's antennae vibrated with what might have been amusement. You've studied human military history? We've studied everything about humans, Whisker said. After Corporal Kim arrived, we accessed the cultural database. Humans come from Earth. Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world. Bomb's eyebrows rose. You know about planetary classifications? Yes, ma'am. Most species evolve on Class 2 or 3 worlds. Stable climates. Abundant resources. Predictable seasons. Earth has extreme weather, dangerous predators, limited fresh water in many regions, and hundreds of ways to die. Whisker spoke like he was reciting from memory. Humans evolved to survive by being prepared for everything. Velthra's tail swished. This is why you stole the corporal's gear? Academic research? Not just research, Pounce said. Understanding. Every species in the academy has advantages. The krill have armor plating. The Vex can see in darkness. The humans have tools, and the knowledge to use them. Kira pulled out her notebook, the same one from the cargo bay. She opened it to show pages filled with detailed sketches. This is the tactical knife. Carbon steel blade, 15.24 centimeters long. Serrated edge on one side for cutting rope and fiber. Straight edge for precision cuts. The handle has a weighted end for hammering. The pommel unscrews to reveal a small storage compartment where Corporal Kim keeps water purification tablets. She flipped pages. This is the multi-tool. 19 functions in one object. Pliers, wire cutter, knife blade, saw, screwdriver set, can opener, bottle opener, ruler, file. Each tool folds into the handle. Total weight 198 grams. More pages. Paracord. Nylon kernmantle rope rated for 249 kilograms of weight. Can be separated into inner strands for sewing, fishing line, or dental floss. Outer sheath can be used alone for lashing materials together. 7-strand core means redundancy. If 3 strands break, 4 still hold. The notebook was full. Every item from Daeho's locker had been cataloged, measured, drawn, and analyzed. Bomb picked up the notebook carefully. This is impressive work. How long did this take? 3 weeks, Kira said. We watched Corporal Kim during training exercises, during meals, during equipment maintenance. We cataloged every time he used something from his gear. Show them the data, Whisker urged. Kira pulled out a data pad. On the screen was a chart. Week 1. Corporal Kim accessed his gear 43 times. Week 2, 51 times. Week 3, 67 times. Other instructors accessed their standard issue equipment an average of 12 times per week. Corporal Kim uses his tools 5 times more often. Because human tools are inferior? Velthra asked. No, all 3 cubs said together. Pounce continued. Because human tools are versatile. A Vex instructor has a scanner for analyzing materials. Just a scanner. Corporal Kim uses his knife to scrape samples, his multi-tool to measure density, his compass to check for magnetic properties, and his notebook to record results. 1 Vex tool does 1 thing perfectly. 4 human tools do 20 things adequately. Redundancy, Whisker added. That's the word Corporal Kim uses. Always have a backup. Always have another way. Never depend on one solution. Bomb looked at Velthra, then at Thundar. Something unspoken passed between them. The security chief's mandibles clicked softly. You 3 broke serious rules, Bomb said carefully. But you did it for reasons that show intelligence and curiosity. Those are qualities the Academy values. We still broke rules, Kira said quietly. Rules exist for good reasons: security, safety, trust. Yes, Velthra said. They do, which is why you will serve detention for 2 weeks. You will clean the training grounds after exercises. You will assist the kitchen staff during meal preparation. You will write formal apologies to Corporal Kim and to your squad leader. The cubs nodded, accepting their punishment. However, Velthra added, you will also attend Corporal Kim's special instruction sessions as he offered. Consider it additional assignment. After the formal meeting ended, Bomb asked to speak with the cubs privately. Velthra and Thundar left, though Thundar's compound eyes suggested he was still watching through the security feeds. Can I ask you 3 something personal? Bomb said, yes, ma'am. Why humans? Why not study krill armor techniques? Or Vex sensory abilities? Why focus on the human instructor? The 3 cubs looked at each other. Finally, Kira spoke. Because humans scare us. Bomb blinked. Scare you? Not in a bad way, Pounce quickly added. We're Mera. We evolved on a world with 3 moons and gentle seasons. Our biggest predator was a bird that weighed 6 kilograms. We developed civilization because we cooperated, not because we struggled. Whisker continued the thought. Humans developed civilization despite their world trying to kill them constantly. They made tools because they had to. They planned ahead because they died if they didn't. They became smart because strong wasn't enough. And now they're in space, Kira finished. Exploring, fighting, surviving. With the same tools their ancestors used thousands of years ago, just improved. That's terrifying and amazing, Baum smiled. You know what I think? I think you 3 are going to be excellent officers someday. Really? Really. Because you understand something many cadets never learn. Different doesn't mean wrong. Strange doesn't mean bad. And sometimes the oldest ways work better than the newest technology. She stood up and walked to the door, then paused. One more thing. Corporal Kim's harmonica? The one you were examining? Yes, ma'am. He's carried that harmonica for 8 years. Through 3 combat deployments. Through survival training in the Arctic and the desert. Through the void of space. It's not just a musical instrument to him. What is it? Whisker asked. It's a reminder that humans aren't just about surviving. They're about living. Music doesn't help you fight. Doesn't help you navigate. Doesn't help you build shelter. But it reminds you why you want to survive in the first place. The cub sat quietly, thinking about this. Report to Corporal Kim tomorrow at 1400 hours, Baum said. And bring your notebooks. Something tells me you're going to need them. After she left, the 3 cubs sat together in the empty security office. We're not getting expelled, Pounce said, relief clear in his voice. We're getting educated, Whisker corrected. Kira looked at her notebook, at the hundreds of sketches and notes. Do you think we'll understand? Really understand why humans are the way they are? I think, Pounce said slowly, that Corporal Kim is going to teach us more than just how to use tools. What do you mean? He's going to teach us how to think like humans think, how to see problems like they see them, how to survive like they survive. Whisker's tail curled thoughtfully. That's either going to be the best education we ever receive or it's going to be the hardest. Probably both, Kira said. The 3 young Mera cadets gathered their things and headed back to their squad quarters. Tomorrow would bring punishment duty, cleaning and kitchen work. But it would also bring something else. Tomorrow, they would start learning what it meant to be prepared for anything. Tomorrow they would start learning to think like humans. The training ground stretched across an entire section of the Academy station. Holographic projectors could simulate any environment. Frozen tundra, burning desert, toxic swamp, or airless moon. Today, the simulation showed a rocky planet with twin suns, sparse vegetation, and a thin atmosphere. Daeho stood beside Captain Tae-Yang Choi, another human instructor, watching the cadets assemble. Tae-Yang was older, scarred from combat, and known for pushing cadets harder than anyone else. Velthra actually agreed to this? Tae-Yang asked. She challenged me to prove human methods have value. Daeho replied. Said modern warfare doesn't need primitive survival skills. And you said? I said let's run a test. Instructor Velthra approached, her scales gleaming in the artificial sunlight. Behind her stood 20 cadets from various species divided into 4 squads. The exercise is simple, Corporal Kim. Each squad must reach the extraction point 40 kilometers from the starting position. They have 48 hours. Standard military equipment only. No exceptions, agreed, Daeho said. But I have one request, which is, let the 3 Mera cubs observe. 1 embedded with each alien squad, 1 with the human squad. They watch and learn but don't participate. Velthra considered this. Very well. It will be educational for them to see your methods fail in real conditions. Kira, Pounce, and Whisker stood nearby, trying not to show their excitement. Kira would observe the Krill squad, heavily armored warriors from a high-gravity world. Pounce would watch the Vex, insectoid beings with advanced sensors. Whisker would stay with Daeho and the human squad. Each squad received identical equipment. Energy weapons, electronic maps, communication devices, ration packs, emergency shelters, and medical kits. All top-quality military gear, designed to work in any condition. The simulation began. For the first 6 hours, everything went perfectly. The squads moved efficiently through the terrain, following their electronic maps, communicating through their comm devices, making steady progress toward the extraction point. Then the environment shifted. The simulation introduced an unexpected variable. A magnetic storm. Not enough to be dangerous, but enough to interfere with electronics. Maps flickered. Communication became spotty. Navigation systems showed conflicting data. The Krill squad stopped immediately. Their leader, a massive warrior named Grok, tapped his map display. Equipment malfunction. We should halt until systems reset. Kira watched from the back of the formation, her notebook open. She wrote, Krill response to equipment failure. Wait for technology to fix itself. The Vex squad tried a different approach. Their sensors were more advanced, so they attempted to recalibrate for the magnetic interference, but the process was slow, requiring multiple attempts and consuming battery power faster than expected. Pounce observed their frustration. The Vex clicked and buzzed to each other in their language, clearly unhappy with the situation. Meanwhile, the human squad barely slowed down. Deho pulled out his compass. The magnetic storm didn't affect it because it was just a needle and a magnet, responding to the planet's natural magnetic field. He checked the position of the twin suns, looked at the shadows on the ground, and examined the moss growing on the rocks. Moss grows on the shadier side, he explained to Whisker, who was scribbling notes frantically. In this simulation, that means north. The suns rise in the east and set in the west, same as most planets. We started in the southeast, need to go northwest. See that mountain range? Whisker looked where Deho pointed. Yes, Corporal. That's our landmark. Keep it on our left side, we stay on course. No electronics needed. Taeyang was teaching the squad how to purify water from a stream they found. The electronic purification unit worked, but it was slow. He showed them how to use cloth as a basic filter, then boil the water using a fire started with magnesium sticks and dry grass. The purifier uses battery power, Taeyang explained. Batteries run out. Fire just needs fuel, and fuel is everywhere if you know where to look. By the end of day 1, the human squad had covered 22 kilometers. The other squads had covered less than 15, still struggling with unreliable equipment. On day 2, things got worse. The simulation introduced another variable: equipment failure. Not unusual in real combat situations. The Krill squad's emergency shelter unit malfunctioned, leaving them exposed to the cold night. They huddled together, using their armor's thermal systems, which drained more battery power. The Vex squad's ration packs were contaminated by a chemical leak from a damaged storage container. They had to skip meals, weakening their progress. The human squad faced problems too. Their electronic map completely died. Their main water purification unit cracked from a fall. One squad member twisted an ankle on loose rocks. But Deho just adapted. Maps dead? We navigate by terrain and sun position. Purifiers broken? We boil water the old way. Injured ankle? We make a support splint from branches and paracord. Whisker watched as the humans cut straight branches, patted them with cloth torn from a spare uniform, and wrapped everything tight with the paracord from Deho's personal gear. In 20 minutes, the injured cadet was walking again, slower but functional. Why don't other species think this way? Whisker asked. They do, Deho said. Just differently. Krill think in terms of strength and endurance. Vex think in terms of technology and precision. Humans think in terms of adaptation and improvisation. None of these are wrong. But on Earth, adaptation was survival. He pointed to the splint. 10,000 years ago, a human with a broken leg died. So humans learned to make splints. 5,000 years ago, humans without clean water died. So humans learned to purify water with fire. Every human survival skill exists because humans died when they didn't have that skill. That's terrible, Whisker whispered. That's evolution, Deho replied. Earth was a harsh teacher, but it made humans very good students. By the middle of day 2, something unexpected happened. Kira made a decision. The Krill squad was lost, their electronic navigation completely useless. They were arguing about which direction to go, getting frustrated and angry. Kira stepped forward, her small voice barely audible. Excuse me, squad leader Grok? The massive Krill warrior looked down at her. Observer Cub. You are not to participate, I know, sir, but may I show you something? She pulled out the compass Deho had given her. This is a compass. It's human technology, but very old. It doesn't use batteries or electronics. It just shows which way is north. Grok stared at the small device. This is primitive. Yes, sir, but it works when nothing else does. The Krill warrior was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Show us. Kira explained how to use it just as Deho had taught her. The Krill squad adjusted their course and started making progress again. Pounce did something similar with the Vex squad. When their battery power ran critically low, he showed them how to ration their remaining energy by using natural navigation methods. He used the paracord Deho had given him to measure distances between landmarks, creating a rough but functional map. By the end of day 2, all squads were approaching the extraction point. The humans arrived first with 6 hours to spare. The Krill arrived second, only 2 hours behind. The Vex came third, just under the 48-hour limit. But something had changed. At the debriefing, Velthra stood before all the cadets and instructors. Her expression was unreadable. This exercise was designed to prove that modern military training is sufficient for any situation, she said. The results are unexpected. She displayed data on the main screen. Human squad, 0 equipment failures that stopped progress. Alien squads, multiple critical failures requiring outside assistance. She paused. That outside assistance came from 3 young cadets who learned human methods in less than a week. Grok stepped forward. Instructor Velthra, I wish to say something. Speak. The Krill do not admit weakness easily. But today a cub showed me that strength is not just muscle. Strength is also knowledge. The compass is primitive, yes, but it worked. That is strength. A Vex squad leader buzzed in agreement. Our sensors are superior in every measurable way. But when they failed, we had nothing. The humans had alternatives. Redundancy is not inefficiency. Redundancy is wisdom. Velthra looked at Deho. It seems, Corporal Kim, that your primitive methods have some merit after all. Not primitive, instructor, Deho said. Fundamental. There's a difference. Explain. Primitive means outdated and useless. Fundamental means basic and essential. A compass isn't worse than a GPS. It's the foundation that GPS is built on. When GPS fails, the compass still knows north. Tae-Yang added, every advanced technology should have a fundamental backup. Not because the technology is bad, but because conditions change. Adaptation requires options. Velthra's tail swished slowly, a sign of deep thought in her species. Then perhaps the academy curriculum needs adjustment. She looked at the 3 cubs who stood together, trying not to look too proud. Cadets Kira, Pounce, and Whisker. You were observers only, yet you influenced the outcome significantly. Explain your actions. Kira spoke for all 3. Corporal Kim taught us that knowledge unused is knowledge wasted. We saw a problem. We had a solution. We shared it. That's what teammates do. The training vessel Concordant Dawn hung in deep space like a silver needle against the darkness. She was smaller than a warship, but larger than a transport. Designed specifically for teaching cadets how to operate in zero-gravity and vacuum conditions. 200 crew members, including 73 cadets, lived aboard during the 3-week deep space navigation exercise. Admiral Jiwoo Song stood on the bridge watching the crew work. She was the highest-ranking human in the Concordance fleet. A veteran of first contact situations and diplomatic missions, this training cruise was supposed to be routine. Nothing ever stayed routine for long. Admiral, we're detecting unusual readings ahead, reported the navigation officer, a Vex named Tix. Magnetic interference increasing rapidly. Source? Jiwoo asked. Unknown. The stellar charts show nothing in this region that should generate this level of magnetic activity. Deho was in the cargo bay, teaching a class on equipment maintenance. The 3 Mara cubs attended every session now, no longer just observers but active students. Tae-Yang was showing cadets how to service breathing apparatus when the ship lurched, not violently but noticeably. That's not normal, Tae-Yang said. The lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. On the bridge, chaos erupted professionally. Trained chaos where everyone knew their job and did it quickly, but chaos nonetheless. Multiple system warnings, Tix reported. Navigation offline. Primary power fluctuating. Communications experiencing interference. Engineering report, Jiwoo commanded. Engineer Crix responded, his energy form voice crackling through the comm system. Admiral, we're experiencing a massive electromagnetic surge. It's affecting all electronic systems. Source appears to be a previously undetected magnetic storm. We're right in the middle of it. Can we navigate out? Navigation is offline, Admiral. All our positioning systems rely on electronic sensors and satellite connections. Both are being disrupted. The ship lurched again, harder this time. The lights went out completely for 3 seconds before emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Velthra's voice came over the intercom. All cadets to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. In the cargo bay, Deho immediately started organizing cadets. Listen up, stay calm. Follow emergency procedures exactly as you've been trained. Form up by species groups and move to your designated safe zones. Whisker tugged on his sleeve. Corporal, what's happening? Magnetic storm, bad one. Electronics are failing. Can they fix it? Depends on how bad the damage is. The answer came minutes later when Admiral Ji-woo's voice filled every corridor. All hands, this is the Admiral. We are experiencing critical system failures due to electromagnetic interference. Primary and secondary systems are offline. Backup systems are failing in cascade. We have minimal life support and no propulsion. Engineering teams are assessing the damage. In the engineering bay, Crix floated through the damaged systems, his energy form flickering in distress. Everything was fried, not just broken but fundamentally damaged at the circuit level. The electromagnetic pulse had been so strong that it overwrote the basic programming in the ship's computer cores. How long to repair? Ji-woo asked over the comm. Admiral, I don't know if we can repair this. Every system we depend on uses advanced electronics. All of them are damaged beyond standard repair capabilities. We would need replacement parts we don't have, or we would need to rebuild circuits from scratch. How long does rebuilding take? Days, maybe weeks, and we have life support for maybe 12 hours before oxygen levels become critical. Silence filled the comm channel. Everyone understood what that meant. The ship carried emergency pods, but not enough for 200 people. Some would survive. Many would not. In the cargo bay, Tae-yang and Dae-ho looked at each other. This is bad, Tae-yang said quietly. This is exactly the kind of problem humans are good at solving, Dae-ho replied. With what? The ship is dead. The ship's electronics are dead. The ship itself is still here. Metal wiring, basic components. If we can't fix it the modern way, we fix it the old way. You want to manually rewire a starship? I want to give everyone a chance to survive. Come on. They reached the bridge where Admiral Ji-woo was coordinating the crisis response. Velthra stood beside her, both looking at damage reports that got worse by the minute. Admiral, Dae-ho said. Permission to attempt manual repairs. Ji-woo looked at him. Explain. The electromagnetic pulse damaged all the advanced electronics, but the basic infrastructure is still intact. Power conduits, wiring, mechanical systems. If we bypass the damaged computer cores and create manual control systems, we might be able to restore essential functions. Manual control systems? This is a starship, not a sailing boat. Yes, ma'am. But at its core, a starship is still just a machine. Machines can be operated manually if you understand the basic principles. Crix's energy form pulsed into the bridge. Admiral, I don't think this is possible. The systems are too complex for manual operation. But it's possible in theory? Ji-woo pressed. In theory, yes. But it would require bypassing hundreds of automated safety systems, manually routing power, and creating physical controls for systems designed to be operated electronically. The amount of work? How much time do we have? Dae-ho interrupted. Life support will fail in approximately 11 hours, Crix said. Then we have 11 hours to work. Velthra stepped forward. Corporal, this is not a training exercise. If you fail, people die. If we do nothing, people die for certain. If we try, some might live. I'll take those odds. Admiral Ji-woo made the decision commanders are paid to make. Do it. You have full access to all resources and personnel. Engineer Crix, assist Corporal Kim with technical specifications. Instructor Velthra, organize work crews from the cadet pool. Captain Tae-yang, coordinate between teams. And me? Asked Bomb Park, who had just arrived on the bridge. Keep everyone calm and functional. We're about to ask this crew to do something very difficult. The next 10 hours became a blur of desperate activity. Dae-ho organized the crew into teams. Humans led each team because they understood manual systems best. But every species contributed. Krill provided strength for moving heavy components. Vex provided precision for delicate wire work. Mara provided small paws for reaching tight spaces. Kira, Pounce, and Whisker became critical assets. Their small size let them crawl through access panels where larger species couldn't fit. They carried tools, held flashlights, and passed messages between separated work crews when communications were down. The first task was restoring power flow. The ship's reactor still functioned, but the automated distribution system was dead. Tae-yang's team manually rerouted power using basic electrical principles. connecting circuits with wire, solder, and a lot of improvisation. It's like a giant version of your multi-tool, Whisker observed, watching humans strip wire with knives and crimp connections with pliers. Exactly, Taeyang said. Electricity doesn't care if it flows through a computer-controlled smart relay or a piece of copper wire we soldered together. It just flows. The second task was life support. The oxygen generation system was partially automated, but the core process was chemical and mechanical. Crix explained the chemistry. Daeho figured out how to make it work without computer control. We need to manually regulate the mixture, Daeho said. That means someone physically adjusting valves based on readings from analog gauges. Analog gauges? A Vex technician buzzed in confusion. Daeho held up a simple pressure gauge, the kind with a needle and numbers. No electronics. Just physics. Pressure makes the needle move. We read the needle and adjust accordingly. They installed analog gauges scavenged from emergency equipment throughout the life support system. Then they assigned crew members to watch them in shifts, manually adjusting the oxygen flow. The third task was navigation. Without computers, they couldn't plot a course home, but they could point the ship in the right direction. We need to know where we are, Jiwoo said. And where we're going, Velthra added. Daeho pulled out his compass. We can use stellar navigation. Ancient sailors on Earth used stars to navigate oceans. We can use stars to navigate space. Space is three-dimensional, Crix pointed out. Oceans are flat. True, but the principle is the same. Identify known stars, measure their positions relative to each other, calculate where we are. They used the ship's viewports as observation points. Teams of cadets with notepads and basic math skills calculated angles between stars. It took hours, but slowly they built a picture of their location. With 6 hours left, they had basic life support. With 4 hours left, they had minimal power to essential systems. With 2 hours left, they knew where they were and which direction to go. But they couldn't move. The engines require computer control, Crix said. I don't know how to fire them manually. We don't need the main engines, Daeho said. We just need thrust. Any thrust. Maneuvering thrusters can be operated with simple electrical switches, right? Yes, but calculating the correct firing pattern to move the ship in the right direction requires math, Taeyang finished. Which we can do with paper and pencil. For the next 90 minutes, every cadet with strong math skills worked on calculations. 6 months had passed since the Concordant Dawn incident. The story had spread through the entire galactic concordance like wildfire. A dead ship, brought back to life using manual repairs and basic tools. 200 lives saved because someone knew how to work without computers. The academy training grounds looked different now. New facilities had been built, designed specifically for teaching fundamental skills. One building held workshops with hand tools. Another contained navigation equipment that worked without electronics. A third was dedicated to emergency repair techniques using basic materials. And in the center of it all stood a monument, a simple compass, enlarged to 3 meters tall, made of bronze and steel. The plaque beneath it read, "Adaptation is survival." Daeho stood in his new office, looking at the title on his door. Chief of Survival Training. The promotion had come with ceremony and formality, but more importantly, it came with authority to reshape how the academy taught its cadets. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in." Velthra entered, followed by Kira, Pounce, and Whisker. The 3 cubs had grown in 6 months. Not much physically, but noticeably in confidence and bearing. They stood straighter, spoke clearer, moved with purpose. "Chief Kim," Velthra said, a hint of amusement in her voice at the title. "We have the first-class roster for the FORT program. 40 cadets from 11 species." FORT stood for Fundamental Operations and Redundancy Training. The name had been Bomb's suggestion, and it stuck. The program was now mandatory for all academy students regardless of species or specialization. 40 seems manageable, Daeho said. Taeyang and I can handle that with assistant instructors. About those assistants, Velthra continued. I have recommendations. She gestured to the 3 cubs. Kira stepped forward first, standing at attention. In her paws, she held her original notebook, now worn from constant use and filled with 6 months of additional observations. Cadet Kira has achieved top marks in navigation and survival theory, Velthra reported. She has also developed a comprehensive guide to non-electronic navigation methods adapted for 17 different species. accounting for varying visual ranges and sensory capabilities. Pounce was next. He held several coils of paracord, each one knotted differently. Cadet Pounce has mastered improvised engineering and field repairs. He has created a training manual with 147 different rope configurations and their practical applications in zero gravity, standard gravity, and high gravity environments. Finally, Whisker. He carried a stack of printed documents, actual paper printed with actual ink. Cadet Whisker has authored the Cross-Species Survival Field Manual. It contains emergency protocols, basic repair procedures, and adaptation strategies for mixed species crews operating in technology-limited conditions. Deho looked at the three young Mera. 6 months ago, they had stolen his gear out of curiosity. Now they stood before him as experts in their own right. "You want them as assistant instructors?" he asked Velthra. "I want them as junior instructors. Full teaching authority for basic courses. They're cadets. Haven't even completed their own training, haven't they?" Velthra's eyes gleamed. "They survived a crisis that killed more experienced crew members on other ships facing similar situations. They adapted. They taught others. They created educational materials that the Concordance Command is already distributing fleet-wide." She placed a datapad on his desk. "This is not a request, Chief Kim. This is a formal recommendation from Academy Command. These 3 cadets represent exactly what we're trying to teach. They learned from humans that different thinking creates better solutions. Now they need to teach others." Deho picked up the datapad, reading through the official documents. Recommendations from Admiral Jiwoo. Commendations from Engineer Crix. Even Security Chief Thundar had written a note praising their initiative and problem-solving abilities. "All right," he said finally. "But we do this properly. They undergo instructor certification, same as anyone else. No shortcuts." "Agreed," Velthra said. The 3 cubs tried not to show their excitement, but their tails betrayed them, swishing with happiness. 2 weeks later, the first Fort class assembled in the new training facility. 40 cadets from 11 species sat in a room designed to look deliberately primitive. No holographic displays. No computer interfaces. Just tables, chairs, and a large board at the front. Deho stood before them, with Tae-Yang on his left and Baum on his right. Behind them stood Kira, Pounce, and Whisker, wearing new instructor badges. "Welcome to Fundamental Operations and Redundancy Training," Deho began. "This course will teach you skills that many of you will think are outdated, unnecessary, or even primitive. You will learn to navigate without computers, to repair equipment without diagnostic tools, to survive without technology." A Krill cadet raised a massive hand. "Instructor, why do we need these skills?" "We have advanced technology." "Good question. Anyone want to answer?" Kira stepped forward. "Because technology fails. Not often, but it fails. And when it fails at the wrong moment, knowing fundamental skills means living instead of dying." Pounce continued. 6 months ago, I was on a ship that lost all electronic systems. We survived because humans taught us that every advanced system should have a basic backup. Not because technology is bad, but because conditions change. Whisker finished the thought. "This course is not about replacing modern tools. It's about supplementing them. A soldier with a rifle and a knife is better prepared than a soldier with just a rifle. A pilot with electronic navigation and stellar navigation is better prepared than a pilot with just electronics." The cadets listened, many of them nodding. "Over the next 12 weeks, Tae-Yang said, you will learn skills that human ancestors developed thousands of years ago. Fire making, water purification, navigation by stars, basic mechanics, emergency medicine, tool creation, and most importantly, you will learn to think adaptively." The course began with something simple: making fire. Deho demonstrated using a magnesium starter, striking it with a knife blade to create sparks. The sparks fell onto dry grass and caught. Small flames grew into a campfire in minutes. Then he extinguished it and handed materials to the cadets. "Your turn." The Krill cadet, whose name was Thak, took the magnesium stick in his massive hands. He struck it once, twice, 3 times, no sparks. His strength was breaking the striker instead of creating friction. "Lighter touch," Kira coached. "Fire doesn't need strength. It needs patience and technique." On the 10th try, Thak got sparks. On the 15th try, he got flames. When his grass bundle caught fire, the massive warrior looked more proud than he had after any combat victory. A Vex cadet named Zix struggled with the concept. "This is inefficient. A plasma torch creates fire instantly. True, Whisper agreed. But a plasma torch needs power cells. This magnesium stick works in any atmosphere, any temperature, and never runs out as long as you have metal and something to strike it with. But why not just carry extra power cells? Carry both, Pounce suggested. Use the plasma torch when it works. Know how to make fire when the torch fails. Understanding dawned in Zix's compound eyes. Redundancy. Redundancy, Pounce confirmed. The weeks progressed. Cadets learned to read maps without GPS, to purify water without electronic filters, to repair broken equipment using wire, tape, and ingenuity, to communicate across distances using signal mirrors and simple codes. Some skills came easier to certain species. The krill excelled at any task requiring strength and endurance. The Vex mastered precision work and detailed calculations. The Mera showed exceptional ability with fine motor skills and pattern recognition. But every species struggled with the fundamental concept: solving problems without defaulting to technology. It's like a muscle we've never used, a reptilian cadet observed during a navigation exercise. We've always had computers to think for us. Now we have to think for ourselves. Exactly right, Deho confirmed. Technology extends your capabilities, but if you only know how to operate through technology, you're vulnerable. Master the fundamentals, and technology becomes a tool instead of a crutch. The final exam for Fort was practical and demanding. Each cadet spent 48 hours in a simulated environment with minimal equipment. No electronics, no advanced tools, just basic survival gear and the skills they had learned. They had to navigate to specific coordinates using stellar navigation, build shelter using natural materials, create fire without modern tools, purify water, signal for rescue using improvised methods, and complete a repair task using only manual tools. 40 cadets entered the simulation. 40 cadets completed it successfully. At the graduation ceremony, Admiral Jiwoo herself presented the certificates. 6 months ago, I thought I knew what military training should look like. Advanced technology, sophisticated systems, cutting-edge equipment. She paused. Then my ship died in space and I learned that sometimes the oldest knowledge is the most valuable. She looked at the graduating cadets. You have learned skills that some might call primitive. But primitive and fundamental are not the same thing. What you have learned is not old knowledge. It is foundational knowledge. The kind of knowledge that works regardless of circumstances.